Hey guys, Jeff here, and today I'm going to show you how to build this shed in one weekend using the basic tools you see right here. It cost me about $1,900 in material, which is a really cool option compared to the $3,500 build your own sheds you buy from the box store, and they don't even give you a shed base and they got to charge you for delivery as well. So listen, one weekend, save your time, save your money, get it done right. Hey, and we're doing something different on the channel this time around. For this build, we got architectural drawings and a material takeoff list so that you can order and have it delivered to your house. If you want to get your hands on that information, just check out the pinned comment below. Okay guys, so we're gonna grab our tape measure, and what I want you to see on this tape measure is that a good tape measure will come with little red squares on it. That is traditional floor joist spacing, 16-inch on center, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're going to measure from the outside and mark the front and the back for all of our joist locations based on these little red squares. And I'm gonna do this with a marker. We always mark the side of the pencil line where the joist will actually sit, all right? So we start with a piece of wood, 16 inches from that start, we start with the piece of wood, and so on and so on. But in this particular build, because everything's gonna be symmetrical, we wanna actually measure from both sides, moving towards the middle. Okay, here's my 16, my 32, here's the 48, red square, and you'll notice that the next joist is already marked and it's not dead center, okay? And that's all right. So this time, because we're doing this symmetrical, and it's important because of the nature of this particular build, all right? Joist spaces can be less than 16, you just don't want them any bigger than that, all right? There we go. So now we got our front and our back laid out. We're gonna take this one, we're gonna set it back here, about 6'7", 7 feet away. Bam, make some room. And now we can cut our joists for the floor. And we'll start with just 2 of them. We'll screw the box together, and then we'll be able to position it, square it off, know our locations, and then we'll be able to move on to the next step. We need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them. All right, so here's the 2 types of hangers we're gonna use, right? This particular hanger sits on a rim joist, and the wood come right up, sit inside this and contact the wood, 6'7". This is the one that we're gonna use on the outside, okay? This one gets screwed on first, and then the wood sits inside of it, and there's gonna be screw heads sticking out of these holes. So the wood gets contact with the screw head, so we have to take a 1/4 inch off for each end for the screw head. Okay? So we're actually going to go 6'7" on the interior, but the 2 on the outside, we're actually going to go 6'6½".
Gotcha.
Okay?
Yeah.
1/4 for each end. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
Cool.
So while Matt's cutting all my lumber for me, I'm just going to set up my rims. These are what we call Simpson Strong Tie. Whenever you see a product from Simpson, okay, generally speaking, they make structurally rated hardware only, okay? And you can see that there's a little stamp on the end of that screw, and it has a number attached to it. Now, the secret here is to know that this is exterior grade. It's a number 9 by 1.5 inch, all right? And it's for connectors, designed for metal connectors of all kinds. Joist hangers, those are hurricane ties in the picture. And it comes with its own bit, slaps into your drill. There we go. Press and play. And it's a 6-sided drill. There we go. And we're gonna use these screws to attach all of our connection hardware. That way you don't have to worry about swinging a hammer and driving in structural nails. Structural screws are just as good as a nail, and I find them a lot faster. Making sure we're flush on the side, just hanging out a little bit. There we are. Can I get an offcut? Oh, thank you, sir. All right. Here we go. You can see, look at the gap, because it's sitting on these screw heads, right? That's just experience talking. Now, I'm gonna take my marker, I'm gonna put it in this offcut, press it over, make a mark on my wood. There we go. That is how we set this up. Now in the world of structural screws or structural anything, you want to put a screw in every hole, okay? That's just the way it works. That way you know you've actually met the rating that the bracket's been designed to carry. This is designed to carry a 2x8. There we are. Let's put this together. Drive 2 screws into the end of this mat, okay? This is just to get it tacked together for now, eh? Okay. So we're using 3.5 inch treated screw. We'll tack this together and then we can set it in position. Then we'll square it off by measuring corner to corner on both sides. Get it in the perfect location. Okay, there. Now we have the shape. Oh, this is exciting. That's the shape of our shed. I like that corner. I like where it's facing. Let's do a measurement. You do one side, I'll do the other. And I'm going to go from the lead edge on that side on the corner, okay? That's important. When you're doing this, you don't work across the middle of your tape. You want to pick the lead edge on both sides at the point, okay? So you're on the point over there, okay? Right now I am 138.25. Let's do the other corners. I am 137.25. I'm out an inch. So that means that our box has been pushed tighter together, okay? So hold your corner in position. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this direction. I'm out an inch, so I'm going to change that to 1/2 inch. I want to go to 137.75 just by pulling it straight to the left. So I'm 137.25. I want to go to 137.75. There we go. Got it. Let's confirm. Okay, perfect. You know, like we're making a pressure treated shed base, for God's sake, right? Not a rocket ship. Okay, now let's get screenings. So what we have to do now is we want to set up our shed base. We're going to work directly on the grass. Now grass is a lousy thing to put a shed base on, even with our special feet. So let's do our thinking about our design now. We have a post going here, right? We have a post going here, okay, on the inside of this junction. That's going to happen in a minute. Same over here. We've got a post on this corner and a post on this junction right here. Okay, so what we want to do is pour the limestone screening, make a little pile in each of those 4 locations, and that way we can then set our feet on top of it, press it into position, okay, and then we'll be in good shape. All right, now let's talk about our shed base. Here it is. This is a TuffBlock. This is available in Home Depot in Canada, okay? If you're down in the States, they also make a camo, makes a great little camo block. It's a little bit bigger foot, has a little more flexibility, but this is great. It's a shed, for Pete's sake. What we're gonna do is you'll see the bottom is designed that it sits over top of all that stone, and it's got flat sections to disperse weight. All right, now what we're going to do is we're going to set these in position. You can see the 4x4 post would sit on the inside, all right? But we need this point to here, okay? So, there we go. It's going to go, right? Here we go. I marked off the 3 on the back, one in the middle, one in that corner, okay? And we still got to do the front corner as well. So once we got all of our dirt, we'll be able to lift the corner up, slide these into position, and line up where the 4x4 post goes in that exact position so that our 4x4 post is making contact with both sides of this as well. Now, because we're on level ground pretty much back here, it helps, right? We are going to set this off the ground just a little bit. We have a 4-season climate here, so we're going to get snow. We might get a little bit of water ponding back here, but it generally drains away from the shed behind it. Should be great. Okay, now we're gonna push all that towards that corner until it's right in that right spot. Bam. About that location there. Does that look good to you?
Sure.
That's just to get started, and then we'll do the ones on the back. Now this is about getting us 95% of the way there, okay? Now remember, when we leveled this all off, and squared it off, sorry, we measured corner to corner. We're gonna do the same thing again in a minute, but we just wanna get all this on stone, roughly in the neighborhood where we're gonna put it. Okay, now we're going to install all of our joist packages. Secret, if you're working alone, all right, you want to crown all these. So basically you're looking down your board and looking to see if there's any curve. And if there is a curve, you want to put the rainbow, the height of the curve on top. Okay, that's a floor joist rule. And if you're working by yourself, here's a tip. That becomes an extra pair of hands. All right. You can set that right where you want it. Okay, that's nice and snug. Yeah, no kidding, eh? That exact measurement, I'm telling you that. All right. One on the top. There we go. Now, these joist hangers we add on afterwards, okay, to screw into the rim joist. And then there's a couple of locations to put screws on an angle into the joist. But that's why I like to screw through the plate first, because I find that this holds a lot better to keep things from separating, all right? We add this after the fact. Oh. I think I grabbed a couple of 2x10s instead of 2x8s. Just run to the store real quick around the corner. We need 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Truth of it is, you don't frame with 2x8 very often, right? Only when you're doing outdoor work like this. Are they looking for me? What's going on? They're looking for guys building things without a permit. Welcome to Canada.
Canada Shed Inspection Bureau.
There we are. Making sure everything is flush is super important. Top and bottom. Now, a quick trick when you're doing screws. You don't screw until you see the head go into the wood. Always look on the back side. You have to screw until the gap disappears. Sometimes you got to go an inch into the wood before you get enough torque to get that to happen. But you go until that closes. Now the screw is in place. If you want to make sure that they're flush, okay, you just take your hammer and you hit both boards at the same time until they're actually hitting both boards. Okay, because that's flush, but the wood has a rounded edge, and so it's misleading. You can easily install these too low if you're waiting for the shadow to disappear. And gaps are closed. Brilliant. Well, let me get my last stick in here, Ren. At least I'll feel like I got something done. Sometimes a foot's a better hammer, right? Okay, there we go. Now it's time for us to identify the highest corner, okay, so that we can set our first post. You know, just looking at it, I think it's over here. Let's set this up. And it is, okay? So when the bubble is to one side, it means that side's high. And if you lift the other side, it goes into the middle. So all we know is, now we're ready to start setting our posts. The first post is going to go in the high corner. We'll attach that, and then we're just going to work our way around to all four corners, getting everything leveled off and thrown in with some construction screws first. Once we confirmed it's all perfectly level, then we'll go to the next level and put in our structural screws to carry load. If you're doing this by yourself, this is going to be a bit of a tricky phase. You'd have to roll the deck out, but we're just going to lift it, stand on an end, lean it against the tree, okay? There we go. Okay. And boom. Now, so consider this. If you dig a hole in this location to put the block, because these tough blocks are a smaller diameter, after we put the second rim joist on, it's almost completely covered. But I'm not digging a hole. I'm packing that in this way, and I'll tell you why. So this mold takes the weight and diverts it to these four flat sections. But if I fill up most of that space with my limestone screenings or stone dust or whatever you got available, then you're going to be able to transfer load directly from the post directly into the ground underneath, okay? One more thing. If your area where you're building is on a hill, you definitely want to dig holes, okay, and set your posts below the ground level. That way it's not going to have a desire to slide down the hill over time. All right, you're welcome. Yeah, that's really good advice. Okay, now, gentle in the right spot would be great. Give or take. All right, close back there. Next step, before we move too fast, too far, we're gonna get all the joist hangers on. One screw for every hole. Joist hangers, you got a couple of options. This tab right here is designed to hammer in, to lock it in place. Okay. Then you got all your hands free. We're using a 1.5 inch screw that does not protrude out the back side. Okay, we're going face screw straight in each of the holes here. And on this side, we're using a different length of screw. Okay, this is a 2.5 inch. And the idea here is it'll come through the fastener, through the joist, and then into the rim. So there's my location, okay? And then you can visualize it this way. It goes through the bracket, through this, and then into the rim. And that's a good piece of where all the threads are, okay? That's locking this bracket through this wood into this. Your screw's only going through this little corner. And my experience is if you don't have screws coming through this side first, and you're relying only on that, what happens is this head stays in the bracket. The threads are all over here, okay, right? But then the joist can easily tear through that last piece of wood, all right? And so I don't like to rely on that, which is why I like to add a couple of extra screws. There you go. You do you. At the end of the day, you end up with a whole lot of fasteners, but your joist is going nowhere. All said and done, if you're gonna be involved in doing something overkill, the structure, the foundation, the thing you're never gonna see again, that's where you wanna overkill, all right? Now we're done building our structure for strength. We still now have to square it off yet again. Here we go. All right, real quick. What was the number that we had? 130?
137.5.
Okay, I'm still 138. Because I'm going to go to 137 and like 3/4 or something. Okay, we're out an 1/8 of an inch. Woo! That's not the end of the world, all right? I'm not going to go lose any sleep over that right now. What I want to do though is throw a couple of in there. All right, just through the top. What we're doing is I'm just setting up some diagonal boards. We're going to throw a couple of screws in, 2 at each end on the picture frame of the rim. That'll keep it from twisting while we're manipulating with all our posts and putting in our structural screws. I just like to make sure that it's not moving around. It's so close to square right now. It's not even funny. It's not worth fighting over. All right, dude, let's check this out. We'll go here. Wow. Yeah, after we panel those things down, it came out perfect. We got 2 different size posts, okay? Because we're gonna do a single slope roof. So what we're gonna do, guys, we're gonna put our 10-footers up front. It'll end up being higher than we need, and that's fine. We'll cut them down to size later on. But Matt, I want you to grab the 8s right now. There's 3 of them. We'll start in that back corner with the level, and I'm just gonna use some of these 3.5-inch screws temporarily to set the height and make sure that we're leveling our perimeter first. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lift. I wanna slide my base first. No, I want you to lift the post out or help me slide at the same time, whatever you prefer. And there we go. This is one of these situations where it just doesn't make any sense, right? These screws that are holding the bracket to the meat so that they don't tear apart are in the way. That 1/4-inch screw head makes it impossible for me to get that in the corner tight and level it. The design for typical construction, let's say it that way, calls for double rim joists where it's transferring load. But because we have posts so often, our span is like not even 5 feet anywhere, and I'm using 2x8. So I'm more than happy, especially on a shed. Not really concerned about it. I don't need to double up for strength. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick like this, keep nice and flush. I'm going to put my post in here. I'm going to use a 4.5-inch headlock screw. I'll show you in a second. From 2 different directions, and we're going to level this first with the regular screw. Okay. Once we get the whole base leveled, then we'll use our structural screws to transfer our load. And I don't need to have a second rim. All right. So I don't want to have that in the way. I just want to be able to walk up here, grab a couple of screws, get the height set, and have it nice and snug in the corner so I don't have to be fussing around with this all day long. I'm going to lift with the bubble right in front of me, and when it says level, I'm going to drive the screw. Matt's going to help me because he's a gentleman. And you'll notice that I'm in a bad spot there, right? Because see the gap? Mm-hmm. Now I'm nice and level, but I have a gap. So let's do this. Let's mark that post. Let's fix the gap. I'm going to set this screw here. I'm going to back this one out. This time I'm going to lift it up to that spot where the mark is, and I'm going to drive this screw first at the bottom and pull that base over. There we are. Yeah. And then I'm going to pull this base over here, get that sunk in there. And so before we can put any anchoring in here, we want to just get the post level on here. See how much movement this post can make in the entire structure. All right, can you just hold it on there and then tell me when you see it looking somewhat level? We're close?
Right there.
Okay. How's the other angle?
Decent.
This way?
It's got to go away from you.
Away from me?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're good there.
Yeah. All right, and then I'll drive one here. Now, that's a lot more stable, okay? Because I got 4 screws top and bottom. That's a lot more stable. Now, we're gonna go check the other corner over there.
Yeah.
And I'm already closed on the gap, so.
We're pretty close, man.
Yeah. Okay. Good. The only last thing I want to confirm is that yellow on that rim to that corner, just to confirm. But it's on that board that was going to something that was already level, so it should be fine. But can you just take that level on that first joist there and confirm we're good?
Yep.
All right, good. We're level. Now let's drop the other 8 in, and then we'll do all the 4 across the front. So what I got here is this 1.5 inches basically, okay, and 1.5 inches. This material here is actually in the way. It's making on the contact with all these screw points. So I'm going to just run my saw real quick. Zip, zip, zip. I'm going to notch this out so that it sits over top of all that mess. All right. Remember, this is a 4x4. And if we were to take a look at the size of that beam and say, okay, our expectations for that post to carry, let's call it 1,000 pounds or 1,500, similar to the foot, and we were to lose 10% of the size of that post, we're still at 1,350 pounds. It's not an issue, okay? So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make this simple. I'm gonna slice a cut through here, and I'm gonna cut on a 45 and just take that whole inside a corner right out of the way. I'm not gonna sit there and fart around with a hammer and chisel all day long. We're just gonna get her done. Okay, then I'm gonna bury this thing. There we go, problem solved, all right? Minus 10%, but now we're gonna clear all that hardware. Let's drop it back in. There we go, nice and snug, like a bug in a rug. I'm going to anticipate that that's fine. Moving left to right, and then front to back.
You're good there.
Okay. All right. Okay guys, so we're just gonna avoid a step. We're measuring now. Hey, look at that measuring tape. 9 inches, okay? There's my location, and we're coming out 1.5 inches. There's my cut line. What else do you need to know, eh? We'll grab the other post. I'll just do both of these at the same time. All right, now, again, we're setting this to about 1.5 inches deep. We don't want to overcut. Let's just move on and finish decking this. We can get rid of these extra boards now that we're all secured. So we'll pop them off, and then we'll get working. Okay? Yeah, this is just a stopper board. Okay? This cuts, you want to have a screw every 12 to 16. Just make sure it's pulled tight. Okay? Now what happens is, we put our boards on. These are the ends that are clean. There's no sticker, no nothing. Pull it over. Okay? Yeah. All right, and then you can give it a little bit of a love tap. Yeah, that's all it is, just a love tap. Yep, okay. Now we're ready to screw them in. If you're a fan of the channel, you've seen some of our other shed work. When I'm using really nice wood, I like to use camo screws. Or if the deck is going to be exposed to the sunlight and the weather, almost everything we're doing here is going to be covered. So surface screws are great in this scenario. And here's the deal. We're using a 2.5 inch screw. The shaft is thin at the top because that is almost completely in this board, and the threads go in the joist. So we want to go to the middle, about 1 inch back, straight down, not on an angle, and just recess the screw about a 1/16 of an inch. And if you want to have it look perfect, okay, you can chalk line, you can get a straight edge, you can do whatever you want to do. Now, I'm still up against my positive stop at the other end. This is still a joist location. This doesn't get sunk all the way yet, so that I have a nice tightened grip later, but I'm into the rim joist here. And then what I'm doing, it's gonna be fun. I have a 3 1/4 gap. That's awfully tight too, isn't it? I think just for good measure, because this, when you're using a skill saw, which is the only cutting tool I'm really using here, we're just going to measure 3 1/4. Okay, and we're going to have the blade on the short side of 3 1/4. All right, makes sense. So the way it works is this: make a measure, make a mark 3 1/4, and the black mark is on the inside of that 3 1/4 line. Okay. Okay, now here's my cutting line. Put the saw right on that black line. Put my finger here. I'm gonna hold the plate. Watch this, here we go. One and done. The reason I did this is I want to have this cut side inside, okay, the shed. Because I've got the entire shed being made out of pressure treated for a reason, right? And that is, I don't have to worry about how I'm waterproofing and the weather systems and water diversion all that much. But I don't want to put the cut line right near the outside wall either. Doesn't make any sense, eh? Okay. Now, I'm only going to put in 1 screw on each location here, but I'm going to change sides. Okay, so this side, that side, back and forth, just to help make sure it doesn't want to flip out and warp. All right, well, hey guys, day 2. As you can tell, we got a little bit of rain. Now when we're making this video, obviously I'm trying to challenge myself to do this in 2 days, which is anywhere from 16 to 24 hours, depending how close to farmer you are on the spectrum, okay? Now, before we go finish the rest of the floor, there's 2 things we've got to get done. One, I've got to storyboard a rim joist for on top of the post, because what happens is, you can see right in the back here for sure, this one overnight got a little bit wet and it decided to go like this, and that's no really good for us. So we're going to storyboard these. We're going to get a couple of beams up top, square everything together again, and that is going to make life really simple for us. So then we can move forward, because until I get those posts in the right position, I don't have the right amount of torque in the 4x4 in the cradle. Okay, so I want to make sure all the posts are as straight as they're going to get before I put in my legs. Now we've got some headlock screws we're going to drive in there to secure it all. And we have to do that before we finish the last 2 deck boards. Step 1, we're going with lots of overhang, so we don't have to worry about the details right at the moment. But we do want to mark the inside corners to just mark where these posts are supposed to align at the top. If we set the top the same as the bottom, then we increase our chances of having success dramatically. Here we go. All right. Now, we're gonna get this over here nice near the top. Okay. Okay, now I can drive a couple screws, hold this all in place. Now at this point, all I'm doing is securing the ridge so that I can hold everything square. All right. And then we'll go into details later about how we're going to finish framing up around the roof. But for now, just about getting this locked in. Okay, that one's done. Time for this side. You got your drill on you? This one is here. And what we should end up with is the door area here, which is 47 inches frame to frame. Should be the same all the way up. Bam. There we go. So 47, here we go. Let me show you the tape. Wow, 46 and 7/8. That's about as square as you're gonna get when you're doing this whole, you know, Swiss Family Robinson treehouse construction style build, right? All right, next thing, and then of course, is we're gonna get our deck boards and we're gonna trace this out and get those cut with the jigsaw. All right, so for reference, installed my board up against my end stop here, okay? And I threw in a screw just to hold it in place while I do all my measuring. Here we go. Now, this is as simple as setting your square against the old deck board, running it over to your post, making a mark, okay? And then tracing your hole bigger than the post, about the size of your marker. All right, so let's do this again. There's my mark. Trace my hole a little bit wider. This is not the time to be doing finished carpentry, right? We're not trying to make this snug and exact because wood expands and contracts. If we make it too snug, it's going to end up splitting. So give yourself a little breathing room. On top of that, we measure, and of course the post is 3.5. But because this has been outside and raining, it's actually a little swollen. So it's 3.5 and a bit. We're gonna give ourselves that bit. Okay, we're gonna go to 5/8. Now, here we go. So that's my mark. We're gonna trace that out in a minute. We'll get the rest of these done and then we'll pull out the jigsaw and cut our holes. Let's stick this one on like a glove. Okay. Now we should end up here with about a 1/2 inch overhang, which is why this is the perfect design system. Having a 2x8 single rim, and that works perfectly. All right, so while we're here, let's just talk about this. This is the headlock screw. This is a structural screw. The same way that the small ones were structural screws for the joist hangers, this is a structural screw and it replaces a 3/8 lag bolt. Now, that's where you get all your load transfer strength, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna add 2 on the face of each of these posts. And because this one's going to be the gate, I'm gonna add another one here to help give it a little extra, well, 2 more here. Give it a little bit more, how shall we say, strength. So when the door, which is almost 4 feet, is swinging out, it has some lateral support this way as well, okay? So we're gonna drop this in nice. This one first. And once again, I don't wanna do this until I've got my deck on. It stabilizes the structure. I wanna have my 2 rim joists up top on. Make sure that everything is pointed in the right direction. Woohoo! Okay. And for those of you who are wondering about the end from the beginning on this, I am planning at a later date, once the wood has had a chance to weather and bleach out a little bit, coming back and doing some paint work. And so my rim joists and my posts are all going to be painted black. And so then this is going to just blend right in. Done and done. Now that is solid. The reason we're using 4.5 inch screws, check this out. The dimension from the post to the outside of your rim is 5. So when you drive these screws, even if you want to drive them in before you put your decking on, I get it. You're not going to have anything sticking out on the inside to catch your foot or rub up against your ankle. And you've actually transferred a perfect amount of load, so we're good to go. When we're doing decks, guys, a lot of times we're going to add blocking next to these posts, just so that the deck boards have some structure. We have that blocking built in where the door is and where people are going to be walking. But in this particular build, this is actually going to be where our wall gets installed. We'll go show that system in a minute. But we don't need blocking except for where you're going to walk. Alrighty. That's it. 2 screws. So this is perfect because we took the time to rip the second last board down. That is the secret to this success here. Beautiful.
You said 2 of these, right?
2 in the, yeah, you can look at that corner over there and you can just mimic that. As far as their location and everything. They're not going to be as visible on the back, obviously, so if there's a screw in the way, don't worry about it. Oh! Oh, buddy! Oh, that sucks. Okay. Here's the trick. Put in a spacer screw. All right. I think this wood got its ass kicked the first time you installed it. It really does work every single time. Yeah, well, you feel that? That wiggle is there because they're not done yet. You can do 2 if you want. You can go right in the middle. I just did 1 and it worked really good. While Matt's taking off that cheater board, I'm going to show you this right here. I am going to just mark where the edge of my rim is. I'm going to trace that around the top. Okay. Now I can take my chalk line and run a string line over it here. And I'll just set this right on the edge. Okay. And then over on this side, I'm going to do the same thing visually. Visually just check where this goes. Now, in treehouse construction, doesn't necessarily mean that that board underneath is straight. All right, so there's 2 things we're going to do. One is a chalk line, have a general idea. 5/4 board is actually 1 inch, not 1 1/4. Here we go. So we're going to go like this, and until it's sticking just a hair past 1 inch. I'm going to go about 1 1/8 inches to the top of the tip of the blade, because these boards all have little cupping in them. We want to ensure that we're going to cut through the first time. All right. Now, this saw is equipped to be exactly 1.5 inches right from the post, which should be where that joist is. So it actually works out really well. Then we're just going to follow the chalk line. Not bad. All right, now, this is an exposed edge that's not really visible from the lines of sight in the backyard. So you have two options. You can grab a stain sealer, sorry, a cut and seal product, and you can seal it up. Or you can just incorporate that into your rim and paint it when we get to painting. Since we're going to be painting and staining everything here eventually down the road in a couple months, I'm not going to worry about if it's a cut exposed edge right now, because it's not going to be buried. The reason we use a cut and seal product is when we have cuts that are structural, that are encapsulated by other wood, and we don't have ability to stain it or paint it later. But all of these exposed cuts are going to be here for us to paint later. But we're not going to worry about it for now. Okay. Woo! We have a finished deck platform. All right, guys, we are 5 hours into this build, and I got about an hour until lunch. So we're just going to get some walls built while we're standing around. Look at the stick. Here's the system. I'll try to explain it the best I can. I am going to be using 2x2s, okay, as a nailing strip for fence boards. So, it's a very rustic look, but it's really effective because it has a great ability to divert water, because we're using overlapping fence boards, okay? So it kind of looks like an old cedar shaker house. The benefit of this, because we're using basic materials, are always in stock, so you never have to have that much planning ahead except for the roof. And then I got another one here. The best thing about this, well, put the sticker at the top and it'll get cut off, is I'm just lining all of these posts on each side and each corner. We'll get all 12 of these done, and then we're ready to measure and cut the fence boards in. All right, now I'm just putting in a screw about every 16 inches. Avoid going through nuts or it'll just split that board in half. There we go, I'm ready. I can actually close this part of the wall up right now. Now, because if you watched the last video, you know how we built this, my measurement down here will be the same up top. 48.5, 48.5. 48.5. So here we go. We're going to mark 48.5 as exact, but we want a little bit of breathing space on each side. Actually, go 48 and 3/8.
You talking to me?
Yeah, instead of 48.5. Give ourselves a little bit of air. There we go. This is an exposed edge, okay? If you want to use a stain sealer, you can, but we are going to use a spray sealer. So when we're putting our stain on, it's going to be under compression, and I'm sure that that is going to get all the material it's going to need. Let's just go and throw the first board in, and I'll show you how this works. Ooh, so tricky. When I'm tight against the left side, this is the gap that I have to play with. So I'm going to just split the difference a little bit. All right, there we go. And because it's the first board, there's no overlap on the bottom. I like to do this to create the overlap. All right, so I'm just kind of setting the depth of that screw to be similar to an overlapping scenario. There we go, now it looks very normal. That's it. One screw on each side. We're going to start it. We're going to burn it in reverse. That's it. I know, rocket science, right? But what we're going to do is we're going to create a jig so that every board after the fact gets set at exactly the same depth, okay? So here's the plan. Now you can see we're going to have this overlapped, right, where the post extends past it. It's going to be a great look. I'm going to stain all these boards, stain the deck. The rim and the posts are going to get painted black, as well as the rim around the top of the roof. So this is all going to work out great. What I'm looking for is, how do I set the height so that it stays consistent? So I need a jig. Let's figure out where we are. That is my height, like that. I want to go overlap but I don't want to waste material. Okay, but I also want to have it so that after this has been around a while and dried out and maybe shrunk a little bit, it doesn't open up a big gap in the fence either. Okay, here we go. So if that is full board, I think I want to take 1/2 inch off, and we'll check that. That's good. That'll work out really good. So we're going to just mark this one off right now. Okay, we don't install this one. In order to rip a 1/2 inch off of it, throw a couple of temp screws in. Perfect, every time. Now that's going to work for me here. How's it going to work for me the next time? Next board goes over top. I take my said jig. Let's get jiggy with it. And I'm just holding it flush with my fingers down here on each side. And that's all I get. Now you'll see this board has a bit of a up curve on it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at this curve, this gap, and I'm going to hold this steady and bring that down, but the same as that gap. That way, on the left and the right side, I'm finished at the same height. Okay, so we'll just keep that going all the way across. Run the tape in there behind it. I'm at 15 and 5/8. Oof. I'm just a hair off over here, guys. This is one of these situations where that matters. Go back up a hair. Okay. There we go. So we'll use the jig, we'll set the sides, we'll run the boards up, get close to the top, do both panels. And as you go, if you want to put a level, you can have a small level on here, or you can just measure down on each side. Kind of make sure that you maintain that spacing, and then we're going to be okay. Most of these fence boards have a bit of a curve to them, so you can work with the curve of the grain. Because we're overlapping and there's pressure and the board tends to want to curl under that pressure, having it go with the grain, the natural curl, is a benefit. Okay. Okay. This is one of those curved boards. What we're going to do is we're going to just measure this back. The board's curved 40 3/4. Whew. Okay. All right. Oh, this is going to just work so much faster now. Okay. Okay, almost here. So we're going to go one more board so that then we can finish at that height, whatever that is. And then I'm going to show you how to create a jig. We're going to create a marking jig like a storyboard that we can set up and translate the height of all these finished boards to every other 2x2 on the whole shed. All right, now let's go and get that storyboard working out. Here we go. Time to translate some lines and dimensions. Okay. This is how easy this is. Arrow up. Okay. And here we are. There's a fence board, there's a fence board, and so on and so on. And I'm just gonna mark all the way across. Try to go straight, Jeff. All right. If you come and go a little bit on these lines and they're not perfect, that's okay. I mean, it is wood. We have a nice overlap for a reason. But this gives us a good starting point so we can be somewhat consistent. I gotta get this out of here now. Okay, so now I can come over here. Here we go. So now we know that's my spot. Come over here. There. Nice. Time to move this. Okay. This is just in the way now. Problem solved. Now the goal here is to get the actual dimensions all squared off and frame in on all four sides the structural components of the roof, which are basically 2x8s front and back, and most likely just a 2x4 on the side. It's just there so that there's a backing for the cutoff on the boards. We'll show you that in just a minute. Again, for now, this is just a repetition of the same system. 2x2 on every 4x4. It's not that tricky. It's just takes a little bit of patience to get there. Woohoo! Yeah, that is nasty. Okay. 6-foot fence board. That's what you get, eh? How's that one? That just barely closes, doesn't it? Oh, Lord. Are we okay?
A little to your left.
Okay. Okay. So for extra stability, when we get to the very top, you'll see how we tie it all in together. But for now, here's a trick. When you screw like this, you're pulling the wood this way. But if you screw like this and you leave a gap here, then when you catch the wood, you move your finger and now you're screwing on a downward motion. And it'll help close that board off. It's the only thing you can do with a warp. And I'm going to suggest even using a 2.5-inch screw here so that you have enough thread inside the meat that it won't pop out. We're establishing the what do you call it? The levelness of this.
Should we?
Okay. There we go. That's the effect of the storyboard. If you start on a 45 and you can go look to left and right, check those lines out, that's pretty sexy. And from the beginning, the plan is to have a 6-foot door, which is this height, plus an extra board at the bottom, which gets my door to finish off at 78, which is minimum code. So it's going to look normal and act normal. That is about 2 inches higher than my actual finish point here. So what I'm going to do is put on this board, and then this one, and then one more. So 3 more boards to set the front height so that we can create a slope. And then once we get it finalized by doing the boards, then we will make all of the adjustments necessary to all the posts so we can do our roof rim, okay? At this point, I'm just gonna take a walk around. We finished off yesterday in the heat and we were exhausted. So let's do a quick walk and make sure that everything looks normal from the angles, right? So from here, everything looks really nice. Level off and horizontal. Here, everything is good. Beautiful. Here, it looks like I hired a drunk sailor to help finish off. I'm not sure what happened here. Oh, wow, okay. This is perfect. Something went wrong with the way I marked that storyboard. Or I just got too tired and I just thought it was level. These are all installed too low. Somewhere I made a mistake. So that one's right. That means all of these are off. Just take the time to correct this. There we go. Okay. That's the money. All right. At least with this system, it's real easy to find and fix mistakes, okay? So there's another benefit to going in this direction. This is going to serve as my structural load point. I'm going to install it with screws for now, and then we'll add a couple of structural screws that, like we use on the foundation later. And that will transfer the load directly into the 4x4 posts. This is only 2x6, so we're going to want to screw that in all 3 of these posts. And that'll be a piece of cake. I guess I better do that. I need to get something on here as a mark. 52 1/8. Put that to the inside. Make sure we're using new markings. 52 1/8. There's the beginning. Here's my post. We'll go with 1 screw for now. I can get this perfectly leveled when I'm done. Let me know when you think that's perfect.
I think your side has to go up.
Okay.
That's perfect right there.
I love it when that happens. Now we're just going with 2 of these screws for now, top and bottom, and then we're going to switch out your bit. I'll have you put a structural one in the middle, okay?
Okay.
So I need a structural screw in the middle of each of these 3 posts. Mm-hmm. All right, and then we'll be good. So there, the back is done. We have now set the height of the roof on the back. These little pieces in this post all have to be cut down to fit. Now, which means we've also set the height for the front. This 2x6 here, we have the option of having it on the inside or the outside. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna have exposed rafters, okay, on the front overhang. And so part of my roof design is to put in tongue and groove boards and then fill in the rest of the roof with a 3/4 OSB so that that exposed tongue and groove can be stained in with all of the boards, all right? In order to get sexy, I need my structural support on the inside. All right, so in order to do that, I gotta cut away my extra 2x2s so that I can get this set at the right height. All right. When we're all said and done, I'm gonna have a 2x4 coming in behind here, right? All the way to the ends. And that 2x4 will travel behind this board, the same face as this one is, and behind the other one. All right, so I'm gonna take my measurement for my new header from this location right here, All right? And then what I'm gonna need to do, figure out exactly where I'm finishing off. There you go. Finish mark to the same location on the other side. That becomes the width of the new header. So then my purpose here is this. If I cut this off with my oscillating tool, then I can actually put this right where I want it to the 4x4 at this point, okay? On that face, on this face, on this face, and then the same over there. So, first thing we gotta do is measure from the outside of that 2x2 over here, 103 3/4. I'm gonna write that down, 103 3/4. That's my chicken scratch anyway. So here we go, 2x4s. This becomes our new roof, right? That's on the 2x6 on the back. That's on my faceboard here. If I want to have a sexy detail when I'm finished, I need this touching here, okay? Same thing on the other side. Here we go. There we go. Okay? All right. I'm going to take this mark right here. That's what I'm going to do. Translate this piece to here. Okay? So I'm square on the pipe, I'm square on the bottom. This is the top of it. That's the contact point. Okay? And now I want to measure down 5.5. Represents the thickness of my 2x6. I want to cut right to here. All right, so if I trim that there, my 2x6 will fit flat in this location. And over here, at the end of the day, if I'm a little bit high here, I cause a problem with the gap at the roof, right? So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to cut an extra 1/4 inch lower with my oscillating tool, because I don't need this except as a nailing surface for everything that's finishing off. So I'm not going to worry about being exact here. I'm going to give myself a little bit of mercy. Okay, there's obviously an extra screw in here. Okay, woo, beautiful, boom. Now, this is just a structural header. Just a structural header. Should be flush with your 2x2 outside corner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, flush there.
That's fine.
Yeah.
And your 2x4 should be making contact with the siding on the front.
Yeah, there's like an 1/8 of an inch gap or something like that.
Yeah, a hair is a split hair. I'm not worried about that. I'm a little bit high over here. How are we for level? You got to throw your torpedo on there?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, let me check on my side where I can actually use my eyeballs. Exactly. Perfect. Flush to the 2x2. Okay. That's the key here right now. If it's not flush, push the wall out until it's flush, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Start your screw and then double check and then off you go. All right. Rock and roll. So now what we need is some structural screws. 4 of those, right? Boom, 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 boom. All these posts. Mm-hmm. And that'll transfer, I don't know what, 3,000, 4,000 pounds. More than plenty in my world. I'm not going to get 4,000 pounds of snow. So if we can get one of those in each of those posts, I'm great. Structurally, we're using 2x6 and we can get away with it because our span is less than 5 feet from here to here. So that's the only structural laws I've got to concern myself with, and I am completely content with that. Now, the only other thing we got to do is we've got to come along now. I'm going to get a reciprocator out, and I'm going to top off all the rest of these posts that are in our way so that we can get our roof installed flat. All right, as you can see, this is the last faceboard that's attached to this 4x4. And so everything after that point is redundant, right? So we're just going to trim it all out of the way. All right. There's one. We get the slope where it contacts our post now. Now, we're not relying on either of these posts to carry any load. It's all over here, on this. So we can cut these back, and I think just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to maintain the height of this to pretty much to where it is, so that I've got something to attach my 2x4, because I'm going to bring it up on an angle, okay, underneath, so I have a nailing surface for the rest of these boards. That can be done over here. Let's get this out of here before it kills somebody. Probably a lot easier if I cut it from the back side with the skill saw and then finish off with a reciprocator. Okay. Now, can you do a dry test for that for me? Take a 2x4 from there and overhang it and see if it sits on this backboard.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. That is so close I can taste it. All right, so now what we have here is we have an extension outside of the frame of the exact same height as the header, right?
Okay.
Okay, so now take that whole 2x4, lift it up and over and outside. All right, over to me, over there to under here. You hold it there. Okay, so that's going to be the finished height. And then this is also going to be the finished height right at this point.
Okay.
Okay, so now what I can do is I can do this. I can put that on, and now I can mark from the inside. This here gives me the length and the angle. You can take, now that we've marked the inside corner, the length and the angle, it's going to be perfect.
Okay.
But getting that measurement right the first time and getting the angle, it's frustrating. So by creating a jig, you don't have to know how to use a square. You don't have to do any math. You just got to use a clamp, overhang it, and then freehand it. It's kind of like doing tile work. You don't measure anything on tile. Everything's measured to spot. So now we got the angle and the length.
Okay.
Let's see if we did this right.
Once you get it.
We're gonna finish this up to be sexy, right?
Yeah.
And the reason this is happening is because we're not using sheet goods, right? So there's your outside nailing surface. Okay, so what we do here is we mark this, that gets cut.
We're not exactly flush up here yet.
It's okay. We're just getting rid of that backer.
Okay.
We're marking here and we're gonna cut it off,
Okay.
all right? And then I want you to mark the other end of that stick because you're gonna shorten that up as well to the inside of that 2x6. Okay, so now we've got the right height and the right length, the frame interior of our face boards. So we can finish those all the way up to the top.
Nice.
Okay?
Okay.
It's back and forth, but it's simple. So if you can throw me the skill saw. Let's try that 2x4 and see if we know what we're doing. So there's my location here. Hammer it out, it's going to be flush on the outside. Right there. Yeah, good. That's good. So as long as I'm flush, I'm good. All right. Brilliant. 71 5/8. Next deck board, 71 5/8. So now it's just a matter of measuring, marking, and tracing out. So what we can do is I can actually lay a board on top where the next one goes, make sure it's level, and then just trace the backside to this angle, and then just cut them all off. They'll overlap and finish up really nicely. All right, so we're gonna go like this, and make sure this is level. Beautiful. Now I've got a nailing surface here. This is going to make my life a lot easier. Yeah, I'm going to put a little downward pressure on that one. Okay, now Matt, we're going to stick that one on, and you're going to trace that line from the backside, okay? Here we go. Okay, let me just get the level on it. I've got about a 1/2 inch. Hold on, I'm going to start with a 1/2 inch overhang. There you go. That's yours. Rip that. Then we'll do the same thing with the next board, but I think the next one will probably be only like 3 feet long or something. Okay. That's a knot. We'll keep it away from that. Yeah, just cut a 36 and then bring it over. And we'll save the other one for the other side. That makes sense? Now here we go, because now we know we're going to have issues when we get near the top, right? So when we put the roof on, we're going to have 2x4s making contact with this one, basically about right beside it. And then we're also going to have a trim piece on the outside. And if you're subscribed or if you're not subscribed, take care of that business. But more importantly, make sure you hit the notifications bar. Set it to all notifications, okay? If you don't want to miss any of the series. Right? And then we just got to drop it in place with the overhang. Oh, easy dog. That's a lot of tension. I like that. There you go. This side's done. Okay. And get rid of this temporary brace. Let's do a measuring from floor to the top of that 2x4 where it comes in contact with the post over there. And I'm more interested in the 4x4 post.
Okay, the 4x4 post is 81 1/4.
Okay, let's go with that. And translate that around the front for me. And I'll get the oscillating tool and I'll trim that one off. Boom. All right, those two are out of the way. There we go. And you can throw that through the saw. There we go. There we go. And I'll take that other saw. Boom. Now you got to trace that line. You got it. You come back, stick all that together. So you can see, once you've done it once, or you've developed a system, it actually moves quite quick because you don't have to think it through. It's just a shed. All right. All right, and then you can do the two of that face. That's a nailing surface. Let's pull out the temporary block. Let's get these other two cut in. So the first one was 71 3/4, right? 71 3/4. Let's get that one cut up here. We'll trace a line. We got two cuts, and then we'll knock those other three posts off. And that's the walls, baby. That's the walls. That makes a good day. That puts it at 3 hours to finish this one today. That takes us to 11 hours. Huh? That leaves us 5 hours to build a simple one-sided slope roof. Hang a door. We're gonna knock this out of the park tomorrow.
So hot. Here.
All right. Okay. Oh. You need to hold that in place for me? Okay. So on average, our boards are 4, almost 5. Right? Yeah, almost 5 inches. So I'm gonna need you to move your hands because that's looking dangerous to me. I don't want you to pinch your fingers. I'm gonna set the board around there and around there. I'm gonna get the screw on the other side. Can you hold that there?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Now, let's get another board. 71 3/4, give or take, eh? Here we go. There it is. Okay, so we'll just bring it down till it's flush.
Gotcha.
Okay, no. Gotta overlap it and go flush. Right? And we'll come over here. Beautiful. All right. Now, the only other thing we're gonna have happen here, Matt, is on the other side. We're gonna probably take a little bit of the deck board, and then we will rip like a 1 inch, 1.5 inch piece.
Yep.
As a little picture frame to cap over this, but I'm not worried about it. I think it's gonna look as stellar as it is. All right, now we just gotta cut the 3 posts on the front, and the walls are up, baby.
Nice.
There we go. You can actually hear the difference. All right. Well, there we have it, guys. We now have walls. All we have to do now is put a roof on this bad boy. We're in business. Okay, so the first thing we want to talk about before we jump into how to build the roof is you got to know the end from the beginning. And so in my situation, we're going to be building a roof, we're going to be putting in a waterproofing barrier, and then we're going to be adding the galvanized sheet metal. The reason for that is because our weather is getting a little bit more, how should we say, torrent. And we want to have a roof that has also got some hail capacity and really extreme weather and heavy snow load. So this is a great solution for us. So these sheet roof panels here are actually 38 inches. Okay? But when you go to the store to buy them, they call them a 36-inch piece of material. And that is because these are designed to have the last rib of one sheet overlap the other sheet. All right? And that is what happens. Once you overlap it, you end up with a 36-inch piece of material. That's how much coverage you get, is 36. So we're gonna get 36 and then 36, and our third piece, once it's overlapped, becomes 38. Put all that together, we're actually 9 foot 2 inches, okay? Now, when we originally built our shed, we put the posts in the ground, we measured off, the outside of the post would be at 9 feet exactly. So the first thing we're gonna do today is compensate for the fact that we're a little bit short and add 1 inch board on each side, which is a 5/4 deck board. I'm gonna have Matt rip that in half. We'll stick one on each side, mark it, get the angles right, build out our roof to the right dimension, and then we'll jump into building our actual roof. There we go. We have 2 sides to this board now. We got a cut side and a sealed side. We're gonna put the cut side up because our roofing system has a sheet good plus a membrane that's gonna go over and down the side, so it's not gonna ever be exposed, so it doesn't need to be treated. Here we go. Now you could do this by yourself if you want. You could just put a screw in this end and then go to the other side and screw it up and then measure it, but I got a helper right here, nice and handy. Overlap on your end as well?
Yep.
Enough that you can get an easy pencil mark in there?
Yep.
I'm holding it in position. We can both trace from here.
Good.
The highest point, okay?
We're flush to the top here?
Yes, sir. Okay?
Yep.
Good. You gonna go cut that for me? Perfect. Oy. Okay. Okay, beautiful. You don't have to follow my design, right? You can do your own design. And if you need help with that, just consider joining our membership program. Hit the join button in the bottom corner of the screen, and for $5 a month, you can become a member, and then I'll be able to help you out on our Discord. You can send me pictures, and we can troubleshoot together if you run into weird situations that you just don't know how to tackle on your own. Okay. We want to be able to measure the front and the back now, and somewhere to write that down isn't a bad idea. 109.5, okay? That is 9 feet, 1.5. So I'm almost exactly the size I need for my sheet metal, which means that when I'm installing my sheet metal, I can cheat a little bit. Remember, it's designed to expand and contract. That's what the ribs are for. So when we're installing, if we're a little bit long, we can just force it into position and screw it down. It's not going to be this or that. All right, let's check the other side. All right, thank you. There we go. Oh, I'm 110 here, perfect. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm a little out of square, not a big deal. All right, and this is the whole point. It doesn't matter, you don't have to be perfect. This kind of construction, all you gotta do is get close, so the system will work for you just fine. Now you'll see that we're extended just a touch, all right? So that our new roof line will actually come right to here, right to this point, all the way across. That makes this inside and underneath. All right, so this becomes where they're like a drip edge almost in effect. So during wind-driven rain, it'll come off the back, blow to here, and then come to here and run down. Okay, so how many studs do we need? We're gonna count every red square across, right? So 1 to start, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 1 at the end, makes 8.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And then, right? And then 2 more, because we're gonna double up each end.
Okay.
Okay, so we need 9 at 92.5.
92.5.
That's our cut, okay?
Out of 2x4?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. So here we are. These are 10-foot 2x4s, which is longer than the 9 and change that I need. So this one is 109, whoops, and a half, and this is 110, okay? But the way this works is this. Here we go. We're gonna go 1 stud there, 1 stud there, up to 3 inches, right? But we're just gonna mark our 16s and X the right side. We don't have to consider with this roof where the screw locations are for the metal, because we're not doing a traditional metal roof where you put up a frame and then you cross frame with 1x2s and put the metal direct, all right? We're actually gonna do a solid roof decking. So that changes the entire dynamic here about how we do our layout. Now, if you want to go with that system, you're more than welcome to. But the reason I'm doing this way, because I have an overhang, and I want my overhang to have a tongue and groove wood on the surface of my deck. So from the underside that I see, I get that beautiful tongue and groove overhang on my wood. It's going to be an absolute sexy beast. Here we go, 109.5, and this one is 110, 2 X's. Okay. We're just using 3-inch screws. And just to jump ahead of the questions, I'll give you an idea on my system. Once we have it in there, in place, we're going to take these, we'll be driving them through into the top plates on all 4 corners, maybe a couple in the middle, especially across the top, just so that when we get those high wind days, a couple days a year, there's an upward lift on this roof. These are holding in place. That's going to be my basic first line of defense here. And part of the system for this roof is to double up the side, because this goes over top of the 2x4 that's already there. Then there's an airspace, and then there's that piece of deck board that we put. So this will end up capping all of that lumber and creating a for the lack of a better concept, the inability for the mice to get in. All right, and I'm just gonna work my way down. I picked up a bunch of these. Not a bad idea. This is tongue and groove. Now I know it's pine. It's indigenous to the area. It's not designed for exterior without a treatment, but it is going to be on the underside of the roof, so I don't care. Here we go. Just going to install it with an overhang. Beautiful. Oh, you dropped your drill. You dropped your drill.
Hold on.
We got ladders everywhere here, don't we? Up. To the waist. And you'll feel it when it starts to want to lift. Are we square?
We can square it off up there.
Are you good?
We just got to get it up.
All right. Grab that 2x4 and I'll push from back here if you want to direct me from the other side. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. Push forward till we get to the overhang. And I feel like it's got to go right.
Okay.
Yeah, hang on a second. That's perfect. And then you get your hands in a position where you can go another 1.5 feet forward, and I'll let you know when I level off. Push. And a little bit more. Okay. Now the secret here is for us to get that corner flush to that corner, and that corner flush over there, okay? Push the, where this post is.
To the post.
Come back about there. Done. You got it, perfect. Now do something to attach that one. So here we go. Now guys, in previous deck videos, I've used hurricane clips, I've used different kinds of straps, I've used just screws because our weather isn't that severe. But then, what was it, 2 years ago, we had some crazy storm that came through here, ripped out about 1 million trees and just snapped them in half like toothpicks. It was the craziest thing. And so now I've adjusted my building style for these temporary outdoor structures to be a little bit more aggressive, all right? So here we go, structural screws right through into the other plate, which is structural screwed to the 4x4, which is structurally screwed to the floor package. This thing ain't going anywhere unless the whole building goes away. One and done. Oh, nice compression, eh? That was sweet. All right. Okay, that's it. And I'm just gonna go flush with the existing header. All right, Matt, go ahead and beat the tar out of it now if you need to. Okay, so there we go. We got decorative boards, we got it anchored. We finish square on the groove side of the board this time. Which made a little bit of sense, eh, Matt? Because I was gonna originally have to rip it, but installing it backwards so that the tongue was sticking out front isn't going to be of any consequence. You'll see when we put the membrane on, we'll finish it and wrap the edge. So I don't care. The whole goal here is to make sure that this decorative wood, which is a lot cheaper when it's pine than cedar, I'm talking $30 a board cheaper, stays dry. All right. So before I get ahead of myself, we can trim that later once we get the OSB on. I need you to cut a laminating 2x4 here for my OSB. Measurement is 75 1/4.
75 1/4.
We will get that one screwed in, and then we're ready to put on our sheet goods. Very excited about that. We're just creating a nailing surface here. Oh, I'm gonna put that in first. Right, nice and easy. Nothing has to be too complicated about this. That's using your head, Jeff. There we go. Just gonna toss in a few screws. I carry 80 pounds each to the other 2x4, so that my OSB can finish on this, and then the next sheet can start on this. That way, at one 2x4 every 16 inches continues to carry snow load, but it meets both our sheet goods. There we go. Okay, well here you go. All right, I like to have the black lines. Yeah, exactly. So when you're doing OSB sheathing, make sure your black lines are facing your nailing surface. The other side is actually a little slipperier, so it can run along the studs, the joists. All right, and then this also tells you in most cases where your 16 on centers are, give or take. We'll double check when we're up there, but I think everything's gonna be just one stud off.
Okay.
Let's get it up on there. Okay. That's pretty close there, Matt. What I'm looking at is, I just want to get it flush on the outside.
Okay.
So if you can move your ladder to the back left corner. Brilliant. Now, 3/4 to 3/4, it's flush. This is the design so that we can have the pretty overhang, but now our deck surface is actually flush. Down here, you'll see the way that I mark it off. Every one of these black lines on the 16 on center actually comes in contact with the leading edge of one of these joists. I keep on calling them joists or studs. They're actually, it's a roof, it's a rafter. My terminology sucks. Oh my goodness. I don't know what's level, I don't know what a piece of wood is. So what I'm doing is basically the same way that I mark it on the plate. I'd put this line, and then I'd put an X where the rafter goes. Eh? Look at that. I'm just treating all these lines like the black mark, telling me where the edge is. So I always going to just put a screw to the left of that black mark, and it's perfect every time. As far as the quantity of screws are concerned, over 4 feet you want 5. That's 1 screw at each end, 1 in the middle, and then you split the difference. And what that gives you is 1 screw every 16 inches. Okay? Most roofs that are out there are not built to this standard. Okay? Oh, yeah. So what we have here is we have an 8-foot long, right? There you go, there's 96 by 9 feet and 2 inches wide. So the way I did the math is simple. The tongue and groove I bought in 10-foot boards so we could have cutoffs. A 4x8 sheet full. Now I have a 27 1/4 inch to finish on that sheet that will extend over to here. Okay, and then my cutoff is now 20 inches, but my last piece here is only 7 feet by 14. So this size shed actually utilizes the complete 2 sheets of goods, plus a few boards in order to get the overhang. You're not wasting any money, and you're not wasting any time. This is awesome. Okay, same thing, lines up, grooves facing me. All right, you can slide it up to me. Moving all the way to the left to the corner is exposed.
Your left or my left?
Your left, sir. I always give directions based on what you're contending with. All right, now, how is that left corner looking? Is it flush?
You gotta come my way, 1/4 of an inch. Keep going.
That's all I got. The only thing is, that end has to be hammered up. So if you can hammer that up, it'll actually swing out while you're doing it. Oh, okay, oh. There you go. Does that give you the right location?
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love this tape measure technique. How many of those do you go through every year?
0.
That's a nice tape then. All right, got it. Beautiful, thank you. Now, the leftover piece, Matt, That looks pretty damn solid to me, buddy.
Enough.
Yeah. Now, in a situation like this, because we're freehand cutting, right? If we have any issues, it's best to make sure that the edge where the water runs off is square and leave a gap at the top if we're a little shy. Not a big deal, all right? The membrane will still cover our gap, and then we're putting a hard surface on, right? So we get that benefit as well. Okay, there we go. Time for ice and water shield. All right, so you'll notice that it has this adhesive layer up here. This is for overlapping, okay? So what we do is we slide down here to begin with, push it over. This is my edge right to the corner. What I want to do is measure about 3 inches of overhang, and then about 3 inches of overhang, and then I just open her up. All the way across. And I'm going to need at least 3 of these, probably 4, okay? Okay. Now, so I'm just removing the plastic from the back side of the Band-Aid. Calling it a Band-Aid is kind of funny, but there we go. Now Matt's going to come over here. He's going to grab that plastic and then peel out the backside. So left to right, you just pull it all out. Yeah, exactly like that.
Satisfying.
And that exposes the adhesive on the back of the big Band-Aid here. Done. Roof. We now have a roof. That's that simple. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing with the next couple of rolls. The one other thing we got to do, Matt, is got to get a saw up here and chalk line this overhang and rip it off. Okay. All right. We just want to get this membrane in the right spot. There we go. This is not difficult. This membrane is actually quite forgiving, especially on a cooler day like today. The hotter it is out there, the faster it sticks. So, like I said, if you're in hot climate when you do this, do it first thing in the morning. All right, here we go. Here comes number 3. All right, guys, so let me just help you with the visualization. Matt, first, let's install this like by capping the black stuff. So watch the fold there. You don't want to wrinkle it. Okay, so this is what our plan is, right? But we want to have it flush to here, basically. Okay, are you overhanging there enough to get a measurement?
Yeah.
Okay, and so in order to get this measurement, the black stuff is in the way. So we'll lift it, come underneath it. All right. Now I got to get up flush to here, and you're flush to that same board, right? This will give me my angle. Now the plan is to have this 5/4 from here and then higher, okay, so that the metal roof doesn't stick out of the face. So I'm going to mark the angle right there. So Matt can throw that on the chop saw. You got yours marked?
Yep.
Okay. Matt's going to mark his at the longest point and then add a 1/2 inch, because this is the water on the backside is going to just fall off. The metal is going to be capped and covered and just fall off. So if the sides extend a little bit, it's just to make sure that nothing ugly and cut is exposed, right? So we're just hiding what we've done. Now that he's doing that, I'm gonna take my knife, and anything that comes down past this 2x4, I'm gonna trim off. This isn't about an exact science. I'm just trying to make sure that I don't have anything ugly exposed. Everything here is pressure treated. And the point of this is just so that the edge, any water that gets past my edge, if it's gonna be leaking out between this and the next fascia board, it leaks to pressure treated to water diversion. So I don't care. We'll do the same to the other side. I'm gonna fold this in, kind of like doing a Christmas present. Fold this under. Okay, there we go. So you're good there?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll work.
Okay.
Now, I have to be dead flush here.
Yep.
Give me another 1/8 of an inch. That'll compensate for the overlap on the asphalt. Go ahead and screw that. Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay.
That's exactly the look we're going for. Okay, all right. There we go. We want the overhang to be at the top because that's going to cover the metal roofing on the front side. There we go. Now, remember, you got about 1.5 inches of exposed. You just look at it this way. This is a 2x4 roof, which is 3.5 plus 3/4. So it's a 4 1/4 roof right now. So that means we have about 1 inch exposed up top. So don't throw a screw up top.
Okay.
All right, try to stay at least 1.5 out. There we go. And you can tack that every 16. That looks just fine, bud. So now, when you look up, you see the rafters. There's no exposed area going into the building. All right. We got this trim board covering everything that's ugly. This will be stained in with the rest of this, I think. But we always have the option to turn this black. So this will be painted black. This will be painted black. This is all stained. This, I'd love to hear from you. Black or stained, okay? All right, back here, you can see we got our post. We got our 2x6 that holds it all together, that's carrying the structure. You can see here. And then we've got this piece here, the decorative piece, again, another 1/2 inch back, right? We built our roof, again, a little bit further, 1/4 inch out. And then our side, we come back another 1/2 inch back. Everything here is designed to continue extending out and out and out and out so that nothing's trapping and holding moisture. There's just nothing wrong with that look, right? There we go. Now, this needs to be pulled down. And I think we're gonna use a couple of flat roofing nails, a couple of big heads, and we'll just get those nails on there to hold it in place. And then our sheet metal will just extend back a little bit, 1/4 inch. Okay, all right, now, extend a little bit here, will you? I got a crack, there we go. And you're hanging down a little bit, right? Because I don't have the angle right. Can you come down to flush off the top? So you can get your mark?
Okay.
Okay, I'm flush off the top, I'll get my mark. Okay, there's my angle. Take your mark plus 1/2, and then you can take my angle and extend right through the whole board. You know this. You got this drill. I'm gonna trim this sucker up. Oh, that is just right on the edge. No sense taking any chances. Okay, we got it. I got it. Okay, come to me 1 inch and a hair. And that'll work. Now, this particular board, it, whoa, okay. Cool, that's funny. It has a propensity to want to bend. But now that we got a 2x4 sitting here, I can close that gap. Come on, baby. It's a little Rambo, but it'll keep that gap shut. There we go. Ah, it's a lot sexier now, eh? There you go. Okay. And we're marking flush, so I'll let you go first and then you can throw me the pencil. I don't want to throw marker on it. You actually want to trace out whatever curve you've got here. Now, if we try to make this perfectly square, it won't work. These are deck boards, they're going to warp, all right? Okay. Again, the best thing to do here is mark it and cut it a 1/4 inch longer than the farthest point.
Okay.
Okay?
On both sides?
Yeah, so what you don't want to do is, see how there's a curve here?
Okay.
You don't want to trace that and then cut that.
Right.
Because from the face, you're going to see this.
So you trace your line.
So you take the furthest point, add a 1/4 inch, and just cut it square off. Okay? So just visually figure out what point you're going to mark as your cut point. Because, here, take a look at this. Like even if I'm an inch off, inch overhang, once all that's painted black, a 1 inch overhang looks just fine.
So you're happy with how that looks?
Yeah.
So then I want to go with an inch overhang too.
Match a 1 inch overhang, but find the furthest point. There you go. And then you just throw a square on that at the furthest plus a 1. And there we go. It's nice and simple, just having a design style. We're not going to try to miter joints. Mitering joints on pressure treated lumber never works. It always shrinks, blah, blah, blah. We're not going to try using glues and adhesives and all that. Save your energy. Just do a nice little overhang. We're square, we're going to come an inch past, paint it all black. At the end of the day, it's a garden shed, right? I'm never going to have to do any maintenance on this roof ever. All right, so I am an inch overhang at the bottom now. I'm feeling good about that. How are you? Is that too much?
I'm an inch and an eighth.
Okay, give me a squiggle.
That's good.
There you go. I'm happy with that. This board actually has a warp on it. So screw your end, and then we're gonna.
I think it's easier to screw it and then.
You want to lift or do you want to hang?
I'd rather lift it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's what you want to do, then that's fine. Okay. Go ahead. All right, now, here's the crazy part. I still want you to grab a couple of those black ones.
Okay.
And I want to go in the middle on 3 of these, like the first single, one in the middle, and another one over there, with your black screws. Okay.
Oh, I hit another screw.
That's possible. Here, take it out and just angle up. There you go. The other, don't forget the other 2x4s are screwed pretty much the same location. So if it happens, it happens. Just change your angle of entry. Because it's an inch thick, right? And remember, 2x4s are an angle, so if you screw in straight, you end up in the plywood or peeling things apart or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Brilliant. Oh, that is going to look so good stained up. And all that's going to do is just tie the entire roof package together so it can't delaminate if we get a little bit of frost or ice buildup upside. Oh, yeah. All right? Yeah, you saw that pull in, eh?
Yeah. You
can toss me that sucker now. And once this is all painted black, the fact that these aren't all centered isn't going to matter. All right, there we go. There we are. Sheet metal. Loving it. 3 sheets at about $55 Canadian a sheet, 8 feet long. Instant roof. There we go. Tight into that edge, tight up to the top. Low profile, we add a few screws. Bada bing, bang, boom, instant roof. Nice. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna go with our structural screw drill bit, 1/4 inch hex head drive. The first part of my roof has got a 3/4 inch deck. This screw would penetrate, right? The screw itself is a 2 inch, so 3/4 is 1 1/4 inch. The height of the thickness of this metal, sorry, it is 3/4. So 3/4 and 3/4 means 1.5. So I got to be careful. I measure back 20 inches so that I'm inside the roof. Because if they stick through the roof sheathing, I don't care, but I don't want them wrecking that beautiful decorative edge. Now this is also where the overlap happens. So I'll start here, and it self-drills, pre-drills. Set it, and a bit of torque. Because this has a washer, but it's a rubber washer. So under compression, this metal edge here, wow, with these gloves you can't see, that's a metal washer on a rubber gasket washer, okay? So when it's compressed like that, you got a nice seal. All right, that's it. We're just gonna throw a few of these in. Nothing you can do about that. There's no way they're gonna line this up with your rafters, because the rafters are every 16 on center, and these are every like 10 inches. But inside the shed, right? Okay, well, I don't care. That's fine. Now, because the roof is made with 2x4s on the outside, I can actually get over here and get the corner screwed down so it doesn't lift up in the wind. That's gonna be fine. There we go. That's it, guys. That's all we need to know. All right, we're gonna throw another couple of rows of screws on, hold her in place, and that'll be fine. You don't let go until you absolutely have to. We'll get to sit on this while it's windy. Holy cow. All right, now, here we go. There we are. Wow. Okay. Whoops, not doing that one. We're doing this one. All right. This is really easy stuff to work on when you have it on a flat deck. Woo! You don't have to be concerned with your strapping or the orientation of whatever wood framing you're using. Because everywhere I'm staring at is a screw surface. And for me, that is the perfect way to install a roof. Especially for DIYers. All right, let's get the last sheet up here too. You don't have to pass where the ladder is. You can bring it up the side. I'll just walk it over into position. Now, if that isn't perfect, there's some measuring for you. Perfect overlay. Perfect, perfect, perfect. That is how you build a roof. This is the best DIY system I've seen anywhere on the internet. It's a combination of simplicity, waterproofing, durability, and precision that you're just not going to get out of any other building material. And it makes you feel safe the whole time you're up here because you're not on a crazy wooden structure that you're trying to put sheet metal on. You've got solid lumber under every step you make. The slope isn't overly exaggerated. Like, there's just so many benefits going on here. So the basic job for us today is to make a gate. This hardware frames it and holds it square forever. So it's a really great DIY system. I've been using this for years. Not a sponsored video, by the way. I just like to share things that I love with you guys. This one was available at the Home Depot. I don't know if Peak is exclusive to them or not, but there'll be options to pick this up, I'm sure. So here's the basic concept, all right? The bottom and the top go on like that, okay? And you just screw them in place according to your dimensions. And then the side go inside the metal brackets, all right? And when you do that, these angle iron here is what keeps every corner square. And the hinges are built into the one side. That's how simple this is. It's not rocket science, it's just amazing. Now, all we have to do is set this up against our frame. Boom, now we know where that is. We set this up over here, and this can go anywhere, all right? Because we can have the finished fence boards come all the way across. We can add a doorstop, we can do a bunch of things. The secret to making this is actually knowing the end from the beginning, and that is what material we're going to use. What we're going to do is we're going to use fence boards as our door. Obviously, that's not the tallest door in the world, so we're going to design this so that that door, A, it's off the ground a little bit, and B, if I put a horizontal one on the bottom, then I can have my height raised all the way up to here, which is almost a 70-inch standard door. And that's great. You'll see that 78-inch in basements all over the world. So that's how we're designing it. Just have a plan. Without wasting any more time, because we are on the clock here, let's put that nice and tight. Let me get a 2x4, Matthew. Make sure I have 2 full boards and then 3 at 46. Thank you. Nice to have a cut man around. Now, let's just take a look at the hardware real quick. Yes, and the Robertson. Yes. We're going to go with a really long extension bit. Robertson screws all the way around, and we are ready to build. I'll take that right here. Thank you, sir. Okay. Now, I might as well build it in place. Okay. Piece number 1. We're going to have it finish in line with just shy of this metal so that we are going to avoid having any contact with that framing. Keep it on a flat surface. We're going to add our screws. Love me a Robertson screw. Now you don't have to concern yourself with all the cross bracing, doing all the angle cuts, doing any math. Just hold it flush to your surface and drive the screws and you're good to go. For the bottom of this, we're going to make that extension so that my bottom board has a nailing surface, okay? I'm going to have it overhang a little bit and then leave a nailing surface for all of those verticals as well. That's the whole system. This is my system. And see, the reason I'm using these structural screws is A, they're leftovers from the build, and so B, this much structural steel in this board is going to keep it from twisting and warping. Much better than trying to screw it together. And the only thing you got to do here is just try to keep it parallel to the decking or perpendicular to the ground. All right, here's the bottom of our door. There we go. Now we need the height, right? Can I have one more of these fence boards and we'll just do this the old-fashioned way. And this is how we do our math around here. This is what I call cowboy construction. All right, so I've got the bottom of the door, I've got the height of my door. I'm going to put a pencil mark right up here. Okay, that is the height of my door. Now, if I want a gap at the bottom, I have to look at this hardware and realize I've got 3.5 inches going to go on top. Okay, so what I'm going to do is measure from here to my pencil mark, which is 70.5. Okay, here we go. 70.5 minus 3.5 for the 2x4 that goes on top. And then minus 1 inch. So if I wanted it here, the height of the door, I go down 3.5 for this 2x4, and I'm going to go down another inch. That gives me a 1/2 inch gap here and a 1/2 inch at the bottom. That way when I install the door, I'm clear on the bottom, and I have a little bit of extra mercy here where the fence boards will be sticking up just past the framing, and that's fine. And while he's cutting that, I'm going to do my top rail. Okay. All right. Nice and simple. That's my face. Now, same thing, we're going to measure this up just like this where the wood finishes on the inside. Here we go. There's my 1/2 inch, okay? That's my bottom gap, that's guaranteed. Here's my hinge. Now all I gotta do is set up my hinge so that my door looks sexy. I'm gonna put my hinge pretty much snug up on this corner. I'm not gonna have it sticking out, I'm gonna have it sitting back. All right, now I'm gonna mark where my hinge goes, okay? All right, now, okay. All right, so we're going to hold that hinge open. We're going to put it in my mark. All right, now I'm going to go with only 2 screws for now. That way, if I need to make any minor adjustments, I'm going to make them on new holes. All right, here we go. Now, brilliant. That's my height, right? I'm going to try to get that flush on the front. There we go. It's about as easy as life gets, eh? Okay. Now, okay. I'm going to need a clamp. Just one, it'll help to flatten out the cupped wood. We're going to open this bad boy up and then attach the other inside hinges. Okay. Okay, this is why I love the Robertson, right? Now, if you got a second pair of hands, by all means use it, but same thing, we're just going to go with 2 screws. This is temporary. Let's make sure that this thing functions, right? Here we go. Yeah. That's actually almost not warped at all. Now let's see if the door stays open when we open it. Wow. That's how you check to see if a door is hung square and if it's plumb. When you open it up, does it close by itself? Not bad, eh?
Pretty good.
It's a pretty simple system. I just want to clamp the metal to the wood so that I get that in the right spot. That way when I'm putting my faseboards on, I'm not going to have the metal sticking out and causing it to cup, right? And so if I'm having any major issues with this, I can throw a clamp on it. So if I want to align it, I just put my pencil in and you can close, 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 right there. Now it's aligned. Beautiful. All right, open that bad boy up. And I think the way that that's functioning, I'm really happy with, to be honest with you. Yeah, got some room, got good action, stays open when you want it open. think we'll just fire off the rest of these hinge screws. So now we have our structure. You can see you can't really manipulate this door anymore. That's awesome. So now all we got to worry about is our facade. So I need my first deck board. We want to guarantee we have our 1/2-inch gap. So I put this board down. I'm setting this on it, and I'm making sure I'm flush with the wood on this end, which brings it inside the hinge. And then wherever it ends up, it ends up. And we will start right here. In the middle. Now I'm using a 1.5-inch brown deck screw, and effectively screwing this board into this 2x4 and this 2x4 all the way across. That'll help to control that scenario over time. There we go. And then it's just about putting on the full boards. Whew. So we'll go a couple inches from the edge to help to avoid splitting. There we are. And over here. Now, fence board. Every one of these boards is going to want to cup one way or the other, okay? And then for us, the secret is, since we're fastening top and bottom, we'll put the bow in towards the outside. The way I'm building my door, my design is simple. It's full fence boards, fence board height, about 6-footers, plus a little bit on the bottom gives me my 78-inch. Do you mind if I borrow you for a minute here? I would love to just dry fit this and see if it's going to work.
Sure.
We'll grab like 2 or 3 each. 6. What do we need? One more? Do we have another really nice one?
Right to the edge of the door?
Oh.
6. So we're 6 1/4 to the edge of the door.
6 1/4 to the edge of the door?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And
rather,
these boards are 5 5/8.
yeah.
So I'm a little bit shy here. And the way we're going to fix that, we're going to intentionally gap these boards just a hair. If I actually add the door stop. So I'm pushing against something while I'm building. Let's do that. You got a door stop right there. You got a piece of rip? Cut me that at 77. I want my door to be square. I want my just shy of 1.5. That's my mark. If that frame closes to here, then my exterior is going to be very consistent. Here's my pieces. Okay, so here we go. Bring this in. And it'll self-square. So let's say I'm out something horrible like that. That's exaggerated, but when I close the door, the bottom will automatically slide nice and tight. Then I'll drive a screw. Okay. Now I got something to build against. The idea here being, I'm trying to get this flush. Okay, and the same on the other side. When this is closed with this board, what we end up with is flush. That means we can install any kind of locking gate hardware that's on the market because I have a flush surface, which means I can put on a gate that has a nice little flip latch. It also has a mechanism I can throw a lock deadbolt on it, something like that in case you need security for your garden shed. All right, here we go. We'll go with 1/8. Now, what I'm doing here is basically conceding the fact that I'm going to get bugs and spiders and everything else in here. So you might want to buy yourself one of those paper mache fake wasp nests and hang it inside your shed to keep the stinging variety of animal out of here. Okay. Okay, Matt. Let's throw that in. Now, the best place to put this is going to be where we're going to want our hardware. Okay, so if I'm going to open this thing up, it'd be nice if it was right in front of me. So then I got to add the height off the ground. So when I'm on the top of my ramp, it makes sense. So we'll go about here. Oh, it's so close.
It's perfect.
I mean, we have space, right? Yeah, we're not going to mess anything up by doing that. All right, so we're going to go with these on a 45. Same thing, we're going to go on an angle. We go in reverse until we get to our 45. All right, and before you sink the head, whoop, you're going to get attacked. Before you sink the head of the screw, bring the other side in. This will lock the two pieces together. Okay, so now I've got a screw in both directions. When I sink this head, it'll be downward force, but this screw that's already got threads engaged in both pieces of the lumber will hold it still, and it won't move. It'll just bury the head. Okay, there we go. Again on the other side. And it won't deviate. It won't deviate in or out or up or down, right? Drive that flush. There we go. Okay, now, here we go. Now we can drive all these in. Remember the gap that we used was simply to get the final board to be sitting in a decent spot. I'm really believing myself in this gap, aren't I? Kind of committing by putting all these screws in already. That's all right. Okay, Matt, I'm going to need at least one more board here. And we're going to split the gap on this last board between the two of them. Okay, let's see what we got here. That's a little obnoxious. Ah, perfect. You know what that means, right? I got to take a couple of boards out and spread them out, spread those gaps out a little more aggressively. Yeah. I got two options here, guys. One of them is I could put them in really nice and tight, start from the end, work towards the middle, and then take the saw and cut my little 1.5 inch piece to go down the middle. Not a big fan. I think what you're going to see here is when I finish this, I'm going to want to have that nice, not see-through look. I'm probably going to add boards to the back side. So this time what I'm doing is I'm just kind of splitting these gaps up a little bit more to make that a little bit more intentional. Yeah, that'll be our door. I want to put a header in, something like this, okay? And I want it to act like a bit of a drip edge, so it extends past the board. That's pretty. Let's get this measured exact. There we go, eyeball that bad boy. Eyeball is exact measuring. Don't lie to yourself. Most people can eyeball better than you can use the tape measure, because most people don't understand that the end slides in and out depending if you're measuring inside or outside the material. So, these accidents happen all the time. There we go, just cut me square and we're good to go. That's that problem solved. Next problem, the door boards are all over the place. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna measure down from a rafter roughly to this, minus a little bit more. My mark is right here. That runs me 12 3/8. So I'm gonna take the measurement from the rafter. 12 3/8. And if you can put a V on it, then that gives you your exact location. And take this board, run across 12 3/8 to 12 3/8. Bam and bam. Some pressure. Here's my cut line. Okay, now we're going to open it all, close it all the way up. We're going to see if we can get the rest of this cut. About a 1/2 inch gap with a 1/2 inch board, so the circular saw should be able to rip that off. Perfect. All right. Now, it's not perfect, but it's a heck of a lot better. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just take out the palm sander at the end of the day, and I'll hit all my rough edges everywhere to soften them up, right? Now, the next part of this was this. I want to make this look pretty. Exterior framing. Maybe a hammer would be a good idea. You are some handy. Oh, make me use Milwaukee, Lord. All right, so that is flush with the door. We don't want that, right? We want to go up a little bit. I like that. But I unfortunately am in there a little bit too tight for that. There we go. Lift up the backside. Okay, and the reason for this, I just like the look of a little bit of a drip edge overhang. So this is not a flat surface, it's on a 1 degree slope. Okay. So that when the door is closed, I'm not exposing the cut surface of this wood to all that water and rain. There we go, bud, thanks. And we're gonna screw from underneath in the same manner. Hold that slope. Okay. We're gonna do both screws like that before we drive the head in. That way we're not coming through the top. And okay. We can confirm the operation. Loving it. Okay. Now, had Matt just ripped me this off. We're going to use this as our nailing surface. All right, so we'll get this perfect by eyeball. I'm going to mark that one left. Sorry, right. This one will be left. Wow, back to school for me, huh? All right. Okay, so both ends, I got a cut line. All right, beautiful.
Let's do it.
Okay. And just like when we started the shed, we'll start this with a surface screw sticking a 1/2 inch out, okay? The very bottom. Okay. There's the other one. Now because we want to get rid of these air gaps so we don't have the wasps coming in, right? We've got 2x4s going up inside. We're going to measure that off and close off that gap there too. 44 5/8. Boom. Can I get a 44 5/8 2x4? Thank you, sir. Now here's a great example of a board being curved. So I'm flat here and then it opens up to a gap. So what I'm gonna do, and then I'm gonna force that down as best I can by leaving a gap between these two pieces of material that my thread on the screw is gonna grab. And now the downward force of that screw should flatten this out. Not bad. That actually worked. That seems a lot bigger than I want, but I bet it is. Okay. There we go. That's how we close up the gap there. Okay. So no more problem with wasps coming through that hole. Okay, and my last board, 44, 46, whatever the heck it was. You had that written down? No. Yeah. Let me just, 46, and you know what? 3/4 is tight, like a tiger. How about?
I took a little bit off.
Yeah, I'm really actually measuring 46 and 5/8. So there you go. Hey, perfect. Okay. I'm gonna bring it down just a hair so that these lines line up across the top. Hang on. Let me just. There. Just need a little love. And we get that one to the same height. Does that look good over there?
Yep.
Okay. Beautiful. We got ourselves a shed. Now let's build a ramp. So we start off by guesstimating, you know, what's a good ramp, right? So we take a look at this. You know, a 4-foot ramp, okay, that's a lot of ramp. It doesn't have to be exactly that. A 36-inch ramp is maybe too aggressive, where your lawnmower, when you're running up the ramp, it might bottom out in the middle and end up wrecking your edge. So somewhere in the middle would be nice. Now, a 46-inch ramp is actually pretty perfect, okay? And so since we're gonna have a 46-inch ramp, and it's gonna start right from this point here, this is a nosing, we have to have a little bit of material coming right up underneath. We want to start 2 inches down, okay, or 1.5 inches down. So about here. That's where we want a ramp to finish, so that the top of this board is flush with the top of this board, okay? And we can make these adjustments on the fly as we go. So we're going to basically just start with our basic structure. The ground is close to level. That's close enough for what we're doing, all right? We don't want to have to turn this into like a high school science project. We're going to start with 46. In order to make this simple, the last board is 7.5 inches. It's extra wide. So it's easier if our board comes in contact with the dirt and then our slat goes into the dirt. So we're going to go short. We're going to go to 45 on our cut on this, okay? So go cut me a 45. And then we'll show you how to get all your angles. This isn't going to be that tricky at all. I'm going to stand this, and if you're sitting right here, you can actually visualize the side of the board at the bottom. It shouldn't be touching the deck. It should be out, just like the nosing. So I'm going to just go like that. That's going to get my vertical. And I want this tip to be based on this board. So I'm going to slide it back. There we go. That's going to be my angle. All right, so it's going to be something like this, from here to here, and I can trace that out later. Now, to get the proper slope, we take a full board and we just set it down right next to it. All right, and here we are. Now, I'm going to just line that up 0 to 0, and then I'm going to just trace this line. Okay? And there's my slope. Now, when I'm done, I can have this board here. There's my angle for this end. Okay? So we'll cut both of these, and then the top of this will sit here, and then the bottom of this will be on the ground, and that'll be perfect. Okay. Now if this works, we'll just trace this. Drum roll, please. That's pretty darn close, and it's got to do with the contour of the ground too a little bit, eh? Okay, so now we're closer. But you notice the ground is also not flat. right? So if I want to go from here to here, I got two options. Now I'm looking like I've almost got to take this into consideration, which is the slope of the ground. So now I can scribe that slope of the ground. Okay. Now, that should be a lot closer to perfect. We can get like that, and then to make sure that we have enough strength, we drive our screws in. We can also take a piece of 2x4 as some cross bracing, and that'll give it all the beef that it needs. And then by using 2x8, we're actually going to create all the strength from the top side as we add all these screws, okay? So we'll do this 3 times. Let's cut 2 of them at 45. Let's just go like this. Now, I'm going to come off the tip here. I'm going to go a little wider here and then back to flush. All right, there's the middle, give or take. All right, okay, I'll use that one here. It's got that marker all over it. All right, so give me one 2x6 at 47, and then we'll be ready to roll. And then I'll get to the other measurements as we go. I want to be able to have the board extend just past my framing. So we'll set that one there, and make that mark. Okay, and then I'm going to put this one in here again, about 2 inches in. There's my mark. Measure this off. 38.5. Great. Made that really hard on myself, didn't I? 15, 19 and a quarter. 19 and a quarter is my center. This piece of dirt here. And then I'll go like this. There's my board. Okay. Beautiful. Now we got that. Let's bring that over. And then I'll get this out of here. I need my drill. Okay. Whew. Okay, now try this out. So as long as we get the right height, we're in the right spot. Okay? And we are 41 and a quarter. I'm gonna try to keep these somewhat square. Okay. That's the one that's out. Just eyeball it. That's why we're going with a couple inches over, because you can eyeball things, and then even if you're off, it still looks good from my house, right? I'm going to measure into my screw, 4 inches. Now I'm translating that screw location to the bottom of this board. Okay. Those go in the middle. We'll do that side first. All right, so now we're square. Let's get this bad boy in position too. Now I'm setting these screws to the right gap so that I can take this out and use this later. This is just to set us up for success. All right, maybe I can get those 2.5s. Oh, just pour them right in. Thanks, sir. Now I'm going to square this one off on my center mark. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to lift it into position, throw a couple of screws in it. Okay, so we'll set those up early on. If you want this to maintain looking as sexy as possible, we're going to do this from underneath. All right, and we're going to throw them in at an angle. Start from about an inch and a half back, drive the screw, go in reverse. Change the angle so you can drive forward. And just set all these screws in place before you get going. Okay. We're going to add other members here to take care of the load issue in a second. Okay. Okay. And then the same on the other side. Since you're handy, here.
You want me to lift it?
No, I'm going to get you to stand on those. All I'm going to do is put my drill on a screw, ready to drive forward, lift this into position, and then tight to the building, and then drive the screw. And then one from these left-handed screws. To be honest, if I wanted to, I probably could have done this from outside of the building. But I'm trying to keep the look sexy. All right. Okay, thank you very much for your help. Okay. Woo! Now, the best part about this whole design is this. I need some scrap 2x4s. That's all I got to do. Right here. Okay? And screw these together. Now, a screw has a shear strength of 80 pounds, which means it transfers 80 pounds of load. So, if I put a screw every foot along this board, on all three sides, every foot of this board, I'm transferring 240 pounds. That's probably the minimum you would want. So let's put a screw every 6 inches, and now we're transferring over 500 pounds. And I'm pretty sure that that would satisfy pretty much everybody in the world who's using a lawnmower. Okay, there we go. And now you wanted to go, hey Jeff, how come you didn't put any protection on the bottom side of that piece of wood? If you want to use joist tape or whatever, you can. But I'm transferring load from the top of this board into the meat of this board. So the only part that I need to maintain any structural integrity is where the screw goes and the bottom of the 2x4, which is pressure treated. Yeah, and it's not rated for ground contact, I get it. But there's a difference between ground contact and being buried in the dirt, right? Most times of the year, in a 4-season climate, it's too cold to be transferring moisture. It's not a big issue. If you've ever torn an old shed apart that had wood sitting directly on the ground, you'd know what I'm talking about. Well, let me get a measurement, because I can only go so far underneath. I'm only looking for, like, give me some 26s. Yeah. And we're using 3-inch screws with 3 inches of wood, so put a 5-degree angle on that if you want to bury the head. But burying the head is even optional, because like I said, we're transferring load. We're not trying to compress the boards together. Okay. That's why you don't have to have a perfect scribe. So when you're scribing your boards, err on the side of giving yourself space, knowing that this transfer of load situation here is going to do all the work for you. Okay, and that is as simple as things get. That's money in the bank. I'm going to take our marker now and actually mark the dirt and the grass. You'd be surprised how well this works. Okay, so I'm making contact here, but the ramp is here. This one's a little higher. So what I want to do is take that shovel that I brought. All right. maybe even the back of a hammer, and just claw that out. That might actually work better. It's only an inch. I don't want to use your hammer for that, but just claw the dirt, scooch it underneath. You don't have to go too deep there. We're not looking for gold.
You might find it.
Anyway, you're okay. That's going to do the job. Okay. Okay. And now we're set right in that hole off the wood. All right. Now, the trick here is to remember that the wood gets really thin. So to get a good grab, put it on a bit of an angle back towards where you want, and only go to the middle on the last one, and go sharper angle. Make sure you're grabbing something. All right, there we go. Okay, there we are. Now over time, we can come back, and if you want, you can put a little bit of extra dirt here, a little bit of grass seed. That way when you're coming along with the lawnmower, you're literally just running right across there, taking up the extra. Okay, nice. Last touch. And we're gonna come right off of that.
Chalk line it.
We could chalk line it, but at the same time, that's flush. Oy. All right. There we go. All right. What I'm going to do is get rid of that, set that in nice and flush. That blade is really struggling. She's worn out. Let's put it in the dirt now. Wow, that really is crooked, dude. I'm not a fan. I gotta try to fix this. That's better. That was way too much work. Okay. All right, guys. Well, here we are. We're back, and I've done a lot of thinking about the shed hardware for this particular project. I ran off to Home Depot and I got myself a sexy little outdoor handle. This is part of the gate hardware section that they've actually extended and expanded a lot in the last few years, so there's a lot of options there. And then I've got this little hook and eye action. Again, this is for outdoors. The idea here is you attach this to the corner and then this to your door. And then when you open your door, you can latch it so that the wind doesn't shut it on you. Great little feature. And I got a lock. Grab this off of Amazon. Nice and simple. It really works out well like this. And then when you're ready to go in, you just have to lift it and it rotates open. Okay, and it stays in the open position. And then when you close it, on the top here, it's got holes you can line up. And you can actually throw a lock in it. So for those of you who are worried about safety and security, there's a lock. So we're just gonna assemble this real quick. Bing, bada boom. There really is no science to this because everything here is wood. So I can put anything wherever I want to. It's just about convenience. There we go. We got our handle. And we got screws. And we got garbage. All right, let's get started. First of all, we want to do is work out a location for this bad boy. So we'll go here, right in the middle of this board. And I am going to just use my knife to trace out a handle instead of a pencil so that I don't have pencil showing up down the road. Here we go. Now we got little set screws here and there's going to be a bracket inside. Here we are. We can release that. Now the set screw location goes down on the top side of the handle. So what we're going to do is we're going to just get this one installed and then we're going to double check our measurements for the location of the second handle. I'm going to go right in here. Find your scratch. Okay, and now the first location, I actually set it up where that cross member is on the fence boards here, because that'll be extremely strong. Now, I'm going to use the handle itself to manipulate that. Okay. Next location is between here and here. Beautiful. And on the bottom one, we'll have the set screw facing up. I'll make sure this fits now. Okay, and then there we go. Now the tedious task of driving these screws in. There we go. Okay, it's good in hand, good and strong there. There we go. Now we got this one. I think what we're going to do is we're going to set this up right on the post, nice and square like. Visually, it looks amazing, stunning. Here we go. And that makes the rest of this nice and easy. So all we have to do is line up the holes where we want to see that. Yeah, we'll go more center here. That'll look nice. Okay. There we go. Beautiful. There we go. All right. I'm going to recommend you don't put moving parts on moving parts. They'll dangle, they'll get in the way, be frustrating. The goal here is to set this up so that you don't have to bend over down to the ground to do something, right? So we're going to just take advantage of something nice and comfortable right here. Now this sticks out a little bit awkward and obvious right now, but in a couple of months, after this is bleached out, we're going to be doing a paint job. We're going to stain the boards, we're going to paint the post black. It's all going to just disappear real nice. Now the secret is to bring the door to the hardware and then have this on here, and we just set the height on the door when it's swung open. Piece of cake. So, let's have a look. So, I want to find something convenient. I have options. I think right there it makes the most sense. How we want to open the door, I just latch it. Middle of that board, right about here. Okay. Yeah. Middle of that board around the same height. And this has got a lot of options to it, right? A lot of play. So don't worry about doing the math perfectly. More concerned with making it look sexy. Oh, here we go. Oh. Okay. All right, let's just go through that again. This is to keep it from blowing around. This is to operate the door. And that is to close it so it doesn't open in the wind. That is nice and tight. You can throw a lock in there. We're good to go. Let me know what you think about that hardware option. Hey guys, it's Jeff and I'm here today. We're gonna stain our shed. Basic process, we're gonna use a hand sprayer. We're using C2 Guard, which is a penetrating stain and sealer. It's water-based. And we're gonna put that in with a 6-inch brush. And I'm gonna be cutting in an accent color with my 3-inch brush. We're gonna be doing all of our posts in black to get a two-tone effect. It's gonna be a really good look. First of all, let's talk about why I'm using the C2 Guard. It's because it's a water-based stain. It is a penetrating sealer, so it doesn't sit on the surface, it goes right in the wood. And that means that over time, a few years from now, when it starts to fade out a little bit, I can actually restain right over top of the existing, and I don't need to remove the existing finish. That's the benefit of doing this product. Okay, just so what we're doing here is we're taking some of the product, pouring it in a pail. This product does separate, okay? It's not a solution, it's a mixture. So it's important, empty half your can into a pail, give it a good mix, make sure all the sediment is off the bottom, and then we'll put it all back together in the pail, mix it together really well so the color's consistent, and then we'll put it in the sprayer and we're good to go. We're just gonna sand the bird poop. Because we got a couple of friends visiting here. We gotta get this cleaned up. This was last used on a drywall project, I guess. The back side of the shed, these posts, they seem to have a lot of that pressure treated kind of material left on the surface. It doesn't get the sunshine, so that's why I gave it a quick sand. Let's see how we're doing here. Perfect. Beautiful. So you can see the bottom of that is nice and clean. That is what you're looking for. If you see a sediment ring sitting there, that's your protection in the can. Back to mixing again, all right? This is, application is only as good as your integrity. We got it. So the sprayer comes with a little funnel. Here we go. Nice and easy. Now I'm gonna leave about half of that in the pail, okay? Then lock it. Whew. Here we go. Now, when you're working with latex, I'm sorry, when you're working with water-based, you want to go from the top down. When you're working with oil, you want to work from the bottom up. All right, so before I get spraying, I just got to get rid of a couple of cobwebs here. If I don't get rid of the cobwebs, they will get stained right in there with the rest of it. Now, we'll just check that pressure again. That's exactly what we wanted. Nice, even application. The secret here is only apply as much as you can remove or brush in before it dries in about 3 minutes, okay? So there we go. We'll do the overhang first. It's gonna drip all over the place on you a little bit. That's why we start at the top, okay? And you wanna work the material into the wood with the brush. Okay, here we go. One of the benefits of this material is that it doesn't cause that overlapping stain effect, right? If you ever worked on a deck board and you've used the cheaper products, you'll get half the deck board done, and then you add more material to your brush, you do the next part. Any overlap is twice the colorant, and it actually shows up really obvious. But this technique like this
you avoid all that. So it's okay if it drips and makes a bit of a mess. You don't need to use tarps and all that other sort of stuff. Just get in here, vigorously brush that all in. Now the colors I'm using today are sugar maple for the body, and then carbon is for my trim. Now that I've got the under area sprayed, I'm going to do the face in my carbon. You're going to see how this comes together. Just using a 3-inch angle brush. Okay. I'm just going to cut that edge just like a paint job. Here we are. Now the secret here is not to use too much material where it's running, okay? Because if it starts to drip, it's going to end up all over the deck underneath, okay? So we're going to put it in, and I'm going to run. You'll see it dripping out. Now it's controlled. If it's dripping, it's too much material. We'll start at the top. Gentle pressure. Okay. Once you feel like you're drying out, then you can use a little more pressure. Dab at the holes, all this kind of thing. Really the goal here is just to create the accent. Here we are. That's a good look, eh? Beautiful. Now when you go to the store, they have oil and they have water base. And they have different tints, and you can pick your color and they can shake it up and mix it on site. But when it comes to the water base, you've got 3 options as well. And that is the transparent, a semi-transparent, and then a solid stain, solid color. Now, all 3 of these apply like a paint and they sit on the surface, okay? It's definitely a lot more affordable. They run about half the price as the product that I'm using. And you can tell that the more colorant is in the can, you go from a transparent to a semi to a full, you go from 4 to 6 to 10 years on your surface, okay? And that's because it has more UV protectant in more colorant and more solid finish. That's the whole choice. That's all there is to it. You get to pick how much work you want to do, how long it's going to last, by picking which kind of finish. Whew, that was the most difficult part of the job. Getting that done without getting that black dripping all over the floor. Okay. Okay, here we are. Now, I'm intentionally just trying to do the body of this. And if I get this material on these corners, it doesn't matter, okay? The black will cover it. If I get it on my hardware, it's okay, it just wipes off with a paper towel. I want to spray it with a little bit of an upwards angle here so that I'm getting the material on the bottom side as well. There we go. And it's okay if you don't have perfect coverage when you put this on, because when you brush it, it's going to fill in all the gaps. Wow, that is really soaking it up well. This was some really thirsty wood. Wow. Now, one of the directions from the manufacturer on this product is you want to apply the stain 2 coats. You want to go wet on wet. And that gets a much better finished look. So we're using this to push any extra material into the wood. There we are. And then I'm just going to go right back and hit it again. If you're going with one color, you can go with an oil. And the secret behind a good oil finish is actually in the UV protection. It's the colorant that you add, okay? So this is a 2-part system. You can add a colorant into the oil, get that mixed up, and then that colorant actually becomes your UV protection, and that helps you get a lot more durability. The problem with using the oil, of course, is when it does start to deteriorate, it can end up flaking and peeling off the surface, okay? If that happens, then of course, then you got to start sanding it all over again. And that's the kind of labor that I'm just not interested in. It's also very difficult to clean your tools, so you're probably going to end up buying brushes and throwing them in the garbage when you're done. If you use water-based, you can clean up when you're done. Sometimes around the knots, you'll notice it doesn't really soak in as well. So use the brush and force that into the knot. There we go. And just like the first coat on the walls, this wood is really thirsty right now. So there's really no residue sitting on the face of that board after the first coat. We're just using some pressure to force that into the wood. Now, the trick with getting a product like C2 Guard is in distribution. Okay, it's not available at your Home Depot. You can order it online if you're living in the States, and we have a 20% discount code. Check that out in the video description. Here in Canada, we have a few distributors. If you're in Ottawa, you just head on down to Randall's, tell them I sent you, and they'll give you the deal as well. So I've got this color done on this wood, right? We're gonna let that dry up probably about 30 minutes while I go around and do the other sides. It's awesome to see this. But this has been outside for, I don't know, we let it sit for a good 2 months, maybe 3. Yeah, that was thirsty. Okay.
Like Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, it's a wax on, wax off environment, eh? Now this is not on the sun side, so I am gonna cheat just a touch here and not get that a second coat. I don't think I'm gonna lose any sleep. Now, I gotta be really careful here, right? Because I don't wanna have it dripping all over the bottom. We're gonna see if this is responding well or if it's still too wet. Oh, I just had a paint drip flick. That's not good. I think what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna go a little bit light on this and do a second coat. So the look that I'm going for here is, it's like a burnt wood look. So if you want to burn your 4x4s before you make your shed, you can. Here comes the tricky part. So make sure we're dry, right? Now, you'll see it's beating up a little bit on me here because there's so much of that other material that got on there. Maybe it would have been a good idea to get the tape out and protect it. But maybe it'd be a good idea if I gave it an hour to actually dry. Okay, and I'm going wet on wet on this part. That's a much nicer look. Yeah. I'm gonna get one coat on it now, and then I'm gonna come back a little later this afternoon after it's had a chance to really dry up, and then we'll get another coat on it. This technique down here is really simple. I'm putting the brush on here, and then I'm pressing it, and then I can use it to, when I lower the handle, it pushes the bristles down. Okay, so holding it still, press it, and you can paint by pushing the bristles into that groove. There we go. I like that look.
Yeah, it's nice.
We hit all the posts. No. No. Oh, this sucks. Oh, my can splashed. Oh, nuts. Quickly get that off of there. Okay. That was close. This is really, really meticulous work. So I guess now the question is it worth the extra effort to do all that detail work to get it framed out like that? Or would you just save yourself the 2 hours it's going to take me to do all the cutting work? And just, I'm starting to wonder, you know, is it worth the effort? I have no idea. Let me know in the comment section. Would you take the time to buy a different color and do all that detail? Or would you just spray it and be done? When you're doing something that's design focused, you usually spend a lot more time and materials doing it to get the look than is really necessary to get the performance. All right. We'll see you in the next video, guys. Cheers till next time.